6.5, trapezoids and kites.
Oh, this is not good enough.
Just stick that back in the box and we'll deal with it in a minute. Okay, so for the first ones, they tell us that we have a trapezoid, PQRS, QR is parallel to PS. Identify the segments or angles, basically, that they give us as bases, consecutive sides, legs, diagonals, base angles, or opposite angles. So we have, I'm just going to draw this trapezoid. This is for 10 through 15. Just going to be good enough. So they told me that QR is parallel to PS, so I know that, you know, Q and R have to be on the same side and S and P have to be on the same side. Since I know that they're parallel from the instructions, I'm going to go ahead and put my marking for parallel on here. So number 10, we're looking at QR and PS. Okay, so we're classifying them as bases, consecutive sides, legs, diagonals, base angles, or opposite angles. So QR and SP or PS are what part of the trapezoid? Yep, bases. (12) PQ and QR. So we've got PQ, and then I've got QR. Wait, what? Do I have these in, oh, wait. PQ, hold on. I have P and S in the wrong spot. It is PQRS. That's the order they should be in. There we go. Now let's try this again. PQ and QR. So this side and this side. Are they bases, consecutive sides, legs, diagonals, base angles, or opposite angles? These are side links, so they can't be angles. Legs are on the opposite sides. It's this side and this side. Bases, consecutive sides, legs, diagonals. I'm not even going to read the angles. They can't be angles. Yep, consecutive sides. (14) Angle Q and angle S. So, hint, this one can't have anything that deals with sides. Okay, the ones that were side links can't have anything to do with angles. So, your options then only are base angles or opposite angles. Yep, opposite angles. So hopefully that'll kind of help you, like, understanding those definitions of those things a little bit, doing those ones. 16, find the angle measures of JKLM. So these are marked, so JK and ML are listed to be congruent. And then angle J is listed to be 44 degrees. So I'm finding the other angle measures in here. So what kind of trapezoid is this? Yep, it's isosceles, okay, because it has the markings that JK and ML are congruent. So if I know that to be true, what does that mean about angle M?
It's congruent to angle.
Yep, angle J is congruent to angle M. So the measure of angle J is equal to the measure of angle M, which means that that's equal to 44 degrees. Now I need to solve for the other ones. So like I said, I like to just do 360 minus those two values. So we would do 360 minus 44 minus 44. And that ends up being 272. Then that's K and L together. So I need to divide that by 2 to find each one of them. And so that's 136, I think. So 136 degrees is the measure of angle K, which is also equal to the measure of angle L, which is 136. Okay, the other way that I could have done it is I could have said, because these are parallel lines cut by a transversal, angle J and angle K add up to 180. So I could have done the measure of angle K plus 44 is equal to 180. And then the measure of angle K is equal to 136 that way. And I could have done it that way. And then you would have just also needed to say that angle L is equal to the same thing. Questions on that one? Or anything so far? Good. 18. Again, they're marked to be parallel so that I know it's a trapezoid. They mark the two legs to be congruent, so we know it's isosceles again. And angle M is 82 degrees. So if that's the case, what else do I know? Yep, the measure of angle J is also equal to 82 degrees. And then how would I find K and L?
Add 82 and 82 and subtract it from 360 and then divide there by 2.
Yep. So 360 minus 82 minus 82. And that gives me, sure, solve it, 196. Then we can divide that by 2. Why does it just disappear? I don't understand. 196 divided by 2 would be then 98. So that means that the measure of angle K is equal to the measure of angle L, which is equal to 98 degrees. And it's fine to write it this way. If you want to write the measure of angle K equals 98, measure of angle L equals 98, you can also do that. That's totally fine. Questions about solving for angles? All right, 20, using the mid-segment theorem. We're finding the mid-segment MN. Or I don't know if it's technically a theorem, but anyways, finding the mid-segment. So they give us trapezoid. And then it has MN. They've told us that it's a mid-segment, but we can also see that by the markings that are on here. PM and MS are congruent, and then QN and NR are congruent. But notice, it's not necessarily true that PM and QN are congruent. It's just saying the mid-segment is taking half of each side, because the legs do not have to be. If it was isosceles, then they would all be like congruent pieces. But we don't know that this is an isosceles trapezoid, so I have to assume that, or I can't assume that both sides are the same. So anyway, so just watch the markings on that if you're solving for stuff. And then they tell us that this base side is 16 and this base side is 14. So the formula for MN is that we do half of PQ plus RS. So this would be 1/2 of 14 plus 16. 14 plus 16 is 14 plus 16 is 30. Half of 30 is 15. So that means that MN equals 15. The next ones we're solving for X, but still using the mid-segment. So we have trapezoid that looks a little more like that this time. And this one doesn't have any letters on it, but it doesn't really matter. We don't need them, but these two are congruent. These two are congruent, which again, that just tells us that this is a mid-segment because it split it in half. This side is X, which is what we're solving for. This is 7, and this is 9. So I'm still going to treat this like I did the last one. So that means that the mid-segment is half of the two base sides. So that means I need to have 7 is equal to 1/2 of X plus 9. So then to solve this, multiply by 2. So I get 14 is equal to X plus 9. Then subtract 9. 5 is equal to X. I'm going to skip 24 for right now for the sake of time. I want to make sure we have time to get through everything, but we may come back to that one in a little bit. All right, moving on to kites. Any questions about trapezoids before we move on to kites? Okay. What are the lengths of the sides of the kite? Give your answer to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so if they say that, that means you can't just leave it in the radical. Okay, if it doesn't specify, you can leave them inside the radical. But these ones say to give it to the nearest hundredth, which means you might need your calculator if it's not a perfect square. So 28. I have my kite. Looks like this. And they're going to show the, basically like the diagonals of the kite as well. Now, they've told me that it's a kite, but what do I know about the diagonals of a kite? They're perpendicular, so they don't mark it that way, but they've told me that it's a kite, so I know that that's true. If they didn't tell me it was a kite, I would need to see those markings to know for sure. Okay, so this side is 2, this one is 3, this is 3, and that's 4. So I know that BC and CD are congruent, okay, based on information I know about kites, and then AB and AD are also congruent. So if I solve for basically 2 of those sides, so if I solve like AB and BC, then I know what AD and CD are, okay? So I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem. What is the Pythagorean theorem? Yep, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A lot of times you're going to see me go ahead, because I'm solving for the hypotenuse. Okay, that's would be the outer sides of the kite, because these are right angles in here. Again, they're not marked, but I can mark them that way because I know that has to be true. I will often go straight to this. C is equal to the square root of A squared plus B squared, just to speed up the process. If you need to write it out every time, please do. Okay, but I'm just speeding up the process a little bit. So, I have to do this twice. So, I'm going to start with AB. So I'm doing this one over here. It doesn't matter which is A and which is B as far as, the side lengths here. So C is equal to the square root of 2 squared plus 3 squared. What's 2 squared? What's 3 squared? So this is the square root of 13. And then at this point, you would, grab your calculator and find what that is. And it is equal to, it's going to the nearest hundredth. How many decimal places is that? 2. 3.61. Got to make sure we round correctly. So that means that side AB is equal to AD is equal to 3.61. Okay. And again, you can write it this way. You can write each side as being equal to 3.61, however you want to do it. Now I'm going to find BC, okay, which also finds CD. So I'm just going to go over here again. Since I already have the formula written here, I'm just using it without rewriting it for the sake of time. If you want to write it, go for it. So C is the square root of 3 squared plus 4 squared. 3 squared is? 4 squared is? So we've got the square root of 9 plus 16, which is? Square root of 25 is? 5. So obviously on that one, we don't need to round or anything. That's just a whole number because it's a perfect square. So then I can say that BC is equal to CD is equal to 5. And then that's my whole answer right there. Any questions about that one? $32. Again, we may come back to 30, but I'm trying to make sure we get through everything today. 32, we have another kite. Not a very good kite. Let me try again. Promise the kites on my paper look better than they do on here. This is the kite EFGH. Everything I'm marking was given in the problem, so just be aware of that. So angle E, kind of ran together, is 110 degrees. And then we know that they marked angle F as being a right angle, so that means that's 90 degrees. So if I know that this is 90 degrees, okay, obviously these are my two short sides, these are my two, well, I say these obviously, but the way they're marked, these look like they're my two short sides, and then these are the two, I'm assuming, longer sides. So what do I know then? What other piece of information do I know? Yep, angle H is congruent to F from whatever theorem number that is. I don't know off the top of my head. So I know that then this also is a right angle. So I need to find G, or the instructions actually ask me to find G. They don't ask me to find H, but I could obviously find them all. So the measure of angle G, how would I find that then? Yep, so 360 minus 110 minus 90, not 99, minus 90. Huh? I think so. 180 minus 110, yeah. So that means the measure of angle G is 70 degrees. Questions on that one? All right, we're going to get into the problems for, again, what would be more like the quiz. We're going to have one kite one and one trapezoid one. Unfortunately, there's not a kite one that's an odd problem, but I want to do the kite one with you so that you can see it. I want to make sure that we know what we're doing. But use the ones, in the book maybe to practice for the quiz. Well, obviously use them to practice. You have to do them. But I would say make sure you use, look over that stuff. So 36. They're telling me to determine whether the points, and I'll write them all down, are the vertices of a kite. So this one, they're telling me what in theory it should be. I'm going to determine what the given information, if it actually is a kite or not. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing with the trapezoid one. So the point A is 4, 5. B is negative 3, 3. C is negative 6, negative 13. And D is 6, negative 2. And speaking from experience, make sure you copy the points down correctly when you go to do the problem, or your kite's going to look really funny.
Oh, we did this.
I very much messed up when I was doing this problem earlier. And I wrote the wrong numbers. So make sure you copy them correctly. Maybe do like a quick check back to ensure that you did them so that you don't get the problem wrong. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to graph this so I can see in the y, I need to go up to like positive 5 down to negative 13. So I'm going to have a pretty big y-axis here. And then in the x, it looks like I'm going from basically negative 6 to positive 6. So I'm just going to set this up. If you want to use graph paper, you can. You do not have to. Okay, so I'm going to plot the points. Make sure you label them so that you can see where everything is. So A is 4, 5, so that means I go right 4, up 5. B is negative 3, 3, so I'm going to go left 3, up 3. C is negative 6, negative 13, so that's left 6, down 13, so that one's way down here. And then D is positive 6, negative 2, so that's right 6, down 2. And then I'm just going to basically connect my dots here. Now, if you do it on graph paper, obviously it will look a little nicer. But fortunately, looks like a kite. But I need to confirm that it's a kite, right? Because it could just be off by like a little bit. Any idea how I might confirm that it's a kite? Between what?
A, B, C, and A, D, and C.
Yes. So I'm basically going to need to find the distance for distance formulas between all the points. Okay, I can't just assume because I'm confirming that it's a kite. I can't just assume that AB is congruent to AD. I'm going to have to find both of them. So I'm going to start with the distance of AB. I'll give you a quick refresher here. The distance formula is x1 or x2 minus x1. It really doesn't matter which one's x1. Squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, so technically you can do this without, what am I trying to say? You can do this without graphing the points, but I recommend it in case the letters don't go around in order. They should, but just in case, I would at least draw it, a little sketch of it. So anyway, so the distance of AB is going to be the square root of negative 3 minus 4 squared plus 3 minus 5 squared. So this is negative 3 minus 4 would be negative 7. Squared is 49. So this is the square root of 49 plus 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Squared is positive 4. So this is the square root of 53. So if you want to, I would just leave these as square roots because you don't, like you're not actually solving for it. We're just seeing if they're congruent or not. So it looks like AD would be its partner. So we're going to do AD now. So the distance of AD is the square root of 6 minus 4 squared plus negative 2 minus 5 squared. So then 6 minus 4 is 2, squared is 4, plus negative 2 minus 5 is negative 7, squared is 49. And so then that's also the square root of 53. So those are looking good. I still need to check the other ones. So we'll just go with BC next. So the distance between BC is the square root of negative 6. It's minus a negative, so plus 3 squared, plus negative 13 minus 3 squared. So negative 3 plus 3 is negative 3, squared is 9, plus negative 13 minus 3 would be negative 16 squared, which is 256. Yeah. And so then that's the square root of 265. So that's this side. And then I need to check CD as well. So the distance of CD is the square root of, I'm just going to look at my paper, 6 minus a negative 6, so that's plus 6 squared, plus negative 2 minus a negative 13, so that's plus 13 squared. So 6 plus 6 is 12, squared is 144. Plus negative 2, or negative 2 plus 13 is positive 11. Squared is 121. Add those two things together, and we get the square root of 265. So, is it a kite? Yep. So then we would say something like 2 pairs of consecutive congruent sides and the opposite sides are not congruent. So if you draw a congruent symbol and you put a slash through it, that means not congruent, but that's how we would sum up to prove that it is a kite. Now, if this was a question on your quiz, you wouldn't necessarily have known that it was a kite, so you would need to then say, therefore it's a kite, okay? All right, I'm going to hit the trapezoid one real quick. If we need to, we'll touch back on it tomorrow, but I want us to see it. So this one says to determine if it's a trapezoid, and then is it isosceles? Okay, so if it is a trapezoid, then we need to see if it's isosceles. So trapezoid one, we've got E is 1, 9, F is 4, 2, G is 5, 2, and H is 8, 9. So all this is in quadrant 1. It's all positive, so I'm just going to set this up this way. I'm going to plot the points. So 1, 9, right 1, up 9. That's point E. F is 4, 2, so that's right 4, up 2. G is 5, 2, so that's right 5, up 2. And then H is 8, 9, so that's right 8, up 9. Now, I'm going to show you the slope formula at least really quickly, but because I can see that these are straight lines across, right? We agree with that. It's a straight line going across. What does that mean about the slope of that? What's true about the slope of a straight horizontal line? It's equal to 0. Okay, now, if you don't recognize that, then we can do it really quick. So the slope of EH is y2, so 9, minus y1 is 9, over x2, 8, minus x1 is 1, 9 minus 9 is 0 over 8 minus 1 is 7, so that's equal to 0. And then FG is the same way. The slope of FG is 2 minus 2 over 5 minus 4. So that's 0 over 1, which is 0. So I've shown that those are parallel. Okay. So EH is parallel to FG. Now, to prove that it's a trapezoid, I would need to then show that EF and HG are not congruent, or not the same value. Or, sorry, don't have the same slope. Words are not working. So, EF is, the slope of EF is going to be 2 minus 9 over 4 minus 1. So that's negative 7 over 3. And then the slope of HG, or GH, whatever, is 9 minus 2 over 8 minus 5, which is 7 over 3. So they're the same number, but one's negative and one's positive, so those are not parallel. And so then this is a trapezoid. Now, it says to also show that it's isosceles. We would do that with the distance formula to show that EF is congruent to HG. I can tell you that this one is an isosceles one, but we don't have time for me to show that. If you need me to show it tomorrow, I'm happy to do that. I know that was fast. Are there any questions right now?
There probably will be some later.
I would say if nothing else tonight, I know it's Wednesday. If you can't, that's fine. But you have a quiz on Friday, okay? I would try to look over that quiz review, and I would look over problem 37. Maybe even go back and try to do 36 again, but by yourself. Or look at the end of the chapter and see if there's one that's a kite and try that one by yourself, okay? The problems for this section, and you'll have time tomorrow as well, but 3 through 23 odd, 29, 31, 33, and 37. So 37 is where I would put my focus. If you do nothing else today, if you have time, again, you're not required, but if you have time, try 37, okay? Tomorrow, I'll make sure that you get the answers for the quiz review, okay? That's probably where we'll actually start tomorrow, is I'm going to tell you to start there, okay? So you can make sure that you know what you're doing before the quiz, okay? If it wasn't going to snow, if I didn't think it was going to snow, I would maybe bump it. If it looks Friday like it's not going to, we might still bump it. But right now, this is what it's going to be, okay? So I would start studying for this quiz.